How to stop being socially awkward. 10 behaviors that make you look weird. I'm going to list 10 distinct behaviors that could make other people perceive you as strange or socially awkward. There are things you may do to appear more normal or less weird with each of these actions. Social awkwardness. A very intriguing statement was recently posted on the Social Skills subreddit, where I was browsing. When someone asks you if they are acting strange, he advised giving them specific counsel rather than making general statements. This person was essentially saying, "I think I'm weird, and I get feedback that I'm weird or socially inept in social situations." But when they inquire of their friends, "What specifically am I doing that you think I'm weird or makes me seem socially awkward?" they are never given a direct response. Platitudes like, "Oh, it's okay to be weird, just be yourself, ignore them," are the pals' standard responses. However, for those who genuinely struggle, it goes without saying that serious worries arise if we become social outcasts or isolate ourselves because we are thought to be strange, socially uncomfortable, unique, or abnormal. People require honest feedback. They don't require sentimental statements like, "Oh, it's okay to be different." If you are severely socially awkward, it leads to social isolation, which is quite painful and detrimental to your quality of life. People in that circumstance require detailed criticism of their actions. I'm unable to comment on your actions without knowing you personally. However, I did identify 10 distinct behavior categories that are about social norms of behavior, and if you engage in them, you won't be seen as weird, socially awkward, or abnormal. In my experience as a communication expert, I've seen that when people defy these conventions or I come across unusual, awkward, or ostracized individuals, these activities frequently contribute to that perception. Each of these actions is distinct enough to be remedied. It might require coaching. For someone to coach you and assist you, they must watch your particular behavior. However, these are the areas you might be able to focus on. You can videotape yourself, but actually coaching or therapy or some kind of professional help is probably going to be needed to fix or remedy these problems, if you have them. 10 behaviors that make you look weird. A gestalt perception, or the overall impression we have of someone, is what we use to describe when we think of someone as strange or socially awkward. People who lack communication skills or behavioral observation training have an overall perception of, "Oh, how odd that person is." That person is distinctive, odd, and awkward. Many people lack the communication skills necessary to identify precisely what it is about another person's behavior that makes them unusual when asked to do so. But I think it's certain behavior, in my opinion. People can only see that. When people see you as abnormal or unusual or awkward, all they have to go on is your behavior, and then their inferences about you are based on that behavior. I think these specific behaviors are observable and can be learned and changed. I believe they are at the root of these perceptions that you are weird or awkward. So here they are. Number 1. Lack or excessive eye contact. Eye contact is subject to conventions. You can never make too much eye contact because doing so makes you appear stalker-like or insane. People will perceive you as unique, bizarre, or awkward if you simply bore down on them and fix your gaze on them excessively. People will assume you are breaking these conventions if you create excessive eye contact, which is intrusive and uncomfortable. They will then assume you are strange or socially awkward. Avoid making excessive eye contact. It's acceptable to look away while you're speaking, then switch your attention back to the other person after you're finished. This is not a staring match. Be careful you blink, turn your head, and gaze downward. In a similar vein, making insufficient eye contact will also come across as odd or strange. If you never make eye contact, people will think you are uninterested, aloof, or bashful. The window to the soul is the eye. In a face-to-face conversation, the face serves as the focal point for the majority of communication. Therefore, you must make eye contact. Making more eye contact is more natural, especially when listening. Even if the other person is looking away, you should maintain eye contact so that when they turn to face you, they see that you are looking at them and that you are paying attention. Make enough but not excessive eye contact. Perhaps it's challenging to learn that guideline, and if you're uncomfortable, you're thinking, I'm not sure how much is excessive. I'm not sure how much is too little. Because of this, you'll either require instruction or you'll have to observe how socially adept people make eye contact. Number 2. Lack or excess of interpersonal space/distance. I believe that mostly there won't be enough room, but occasionally there might be too much. This and eye contact are actually very tightly related. There's an approximate 12 to 18-inch personal space bubble in America that should not be crossed unless you are on friendly or intimate terms with the person. This varies from country to country. This 12 to 18-inch personal distance bubble must be respected during routine social interactions and in public. One of those close talkers is not something you want to be. People will think of you as awkward, strange, etc. People will draw conclusions about you and your social abilities. Even if you're a wonderful person, you have to respect this bubble of personal space. Now, this will differ between cultures. Social distance expectations vary by culture. Keep your distance because it ranges from 12 to 18 inches in America. People will perceive you as invading their personal space if you move into that space. 3 feet is too far to be standing for a typical conversation, so if you keep that distance when you're talking to someone, they're going to think you're weird. The only exception is when you're with others, in which case the standards call for a little bit longer distances and more noise. So once more, observe socially adept individuals, form those opinions, and imitate those social distances. You will come across as strange if you are too close or too far away. Number 3. Poor general or oral hygiene. There isn't a better way to put it. You might smell, have incredibly awful breath, or have pretty bad body odor. Again, culturally unique norms apply in this situation. There are some expectations around daily showering in America. In America, it's frowned upon to smell human waste. Nobody should be able to smell you, your breath, or your body. You should take a daily shower and use a variety of scented soaps and deodorants. The standards about breath or body odor are different in other regions of the world, where it is more acceptable for people to smell like themselves. This is something you'll discover if you've traveled abroad because people from various cultures have distinctive scents. However, in America, if you don't use mouthwash or brush your teeth and you get close to someone, they can smell it. They may assume you are unclean and draw other conclusions about you being an odd, reclusive person that they don't want to interact with if it is extremely terrible. You are not allowed to have overt body odor or halitosis, which is poor breath, in America. You need to clean yourself, brush your teeth, use mouthwash, chew gum, and utilize breath mints. You cannot have particularly pungent perspiration, any other type of body odor, or the potent smell of food. These may not be reasonable or fair, and they differ from culture to culture, yet they represent American norms. If you go against them, people will think you're strange. Number 4. Lack of a filter. You speak in prohibited ways. That is, you use foul language when you shouldn't, or perhaps you use offensive language when discussing politics or religion. You are unfiltered. Regardless of courtesy or the appropriateness for the circumstance, you express yourself exactly how you feel. You speak without concern for decency, poise, respect, or etiquette. You don't have those. You just speak your mind without thinking about its appropriateness or significance. If you behave like that, without any restraint, people will think you're strange. Human communication and conduct norms forbid engaging in certain taboo subjects, trying to stir up too much controversy, or shaming or embarrassing others. You must therefore grasp the appropriateness rules. When I say, be suitable, but I'm weird, you might object. I have a social phobia. What is appropriateness? I have no idea. you can learn some rules, of which I've already mentioned a few. In polite company, you often avoid bringing up contentious subjects like religion, politics, sex, or body odor because doing so will make you appear to lack social awareness. Anyone who deviates from those expectations will be perceived as unusual or awkward, or as someone with whom it is unsafe to interact. Number 5. Lack of cooperation in face work. Back to my very first video, I have a few further videos on the face, the expressive order, and face work. Face is the admirable quality we assign to oneself in society. It's the knowledge that I am a respectable person, which gives me dignity, pride, and self-esteem. You have a responsibility to avoid embarrassing yourself or others in everyday interactions, either by your actions or their own. People who are viewed as odd or socially awkward sometimes lack face work skills. They are unable to keep the expressive sequence. Here is a link to my video about expressive order. These individuals humiliate themselves by acting in peculiar ways that go against social conventions. If you wish to be regarded as normal, breaking certain social conventions is not acceptable. They do not assist in eradicating embarrassment, rather, they permit others to experience it. You won't be regarded as safe to interact with if other people don't have faith in your ability to save them from embarrassment if they make a mistake. They'll think you're strange and abnormal. People may perceive you as odd or awkward if you don't cooperate in saving face by assisting others and by not allowing yourself to lose face. Number 6. Lack or excess of self-disclosure. Self-disclosure is the act of revealing information about oneself. Deep, sensitive details about ourselves are discussed after minor, surface-level details. There's typically a progression. We divulge trivial information about ourselves to individuals we hardly know, such as our name, where we live, what we do for a living, and perhaps some of our superficial interests. We then expose and disclose more private information about ourselves as the connection becomes more personal. The process of self-disclosure generally goes like this. There are standards for self-disclosure, and if you deviate from them, others will think you're crazy, out of the ordinary, or both. Don't divulge too much early on in a relationship. All that is left is your name, rank, and serial number. Where you reside, what you do for a career, some of your interests, if they aren't forbidden topics, and the kinds of music, television shows, movies, or books you enjoy are all examples of safe topics. These are all things you can say about yourself when you're first starting a relationship and meeting new individuals. Try not to reveal too much. If you meet new individuals and start telling them all at once about your serious psychological issues, such as your addictions, abuse history, mental health issues, or the most embarrassing and shameful aspects of your past, all of those sensations are legitimate, and someday you want a companion with whom you can discuss them, but not right away. It's insufficient. People may consider, there's just too much data. This individual is strange and awkward. I'm not interested in talking to him. People will not trust you if you never divulge anything about yourself. I once knew someone who isn't really a part of my life anymore, but because of her excellent listening skills, she often received information from others. She would, however, never divulge any personal information. In the end, they didn't believe her. Because if you never reveal anything about yourself, you're violating this norm of self-disclosure, which says, if I tell you something, then you tell me something of equal intimacy. You meet a new person, and they tell you their name and where they live and kind of what their hobbies are and what they do for a living. If you then reveal none of that information about yourself, you've violated this norm of reciprocity and self-disclosure, and you're going to be seen as weird. Number 7. Lack of relevance. Being relevant is one of the standards of discourse. You must participate in the discourse in a way that your input relates to what was said earlier. If a particular issue is being discussed and the person who had the previous turn spoke about it, you are more or less required to discuss that same topic when it is your time, or at the very least, to say something related to or pertinent to that topic. Stick to the same subject if you're thought of as awkward or unusual in general, because you might have trouble determining what's important. Avoid trying to divert the conversation too much. A sudden change in subject will seem extremely weird. Avoid straying from the subject or using non sequiturs. Non sequitur, which means out of sequence or out of place, is a Latin expression. It is to bring up a subject that has nothing to do with the one that was previously on the agenda. Therefore, if people think you are unusual, it could be because you still struggle with relevancy. You have to keep on subject. Number 8. Lack of graceful entrances and exits from interactions. Around entering and departing interactions, there are conventions and traditions. If you enter or exit too suddenly, or if you do so slowly, you will be seen as awkward. When someone tries to conclude a conversation by saying, no problem. Okay. Wonderful to meet you. Wow, it was a true joy meeting you. I had to leave right away. Okay. All right. Okay, then. Okay, all of those are indications for you to leave, yet you still haven't. People won't want to interact with you if you're missing all those cues, lingering and talking when they're trying to get your attention, and refusing to let them go when they indicate for you to. Even if you want to keep talking with them, when they signal that they're ready to leave, you have to let them. On the other hand, you can't just swoop in during a conversation. You need to speak appropriately and slowly if others are speaking. However, you will come across as awkward if you are invited into a conversation because someone brings up your name or motions for you to join in and you decline the invitation. Entry and exit are hence rights. If you can't learn those customs, others will think you're strange or odd. Number 9. Lack of using back-channel cues. Back-channel cues are simple affirmative phrases like aha, ah, oh, or tell me more. These are back-channel cues, the discrete actions we do to signal to others that we are still paying attention. They signal to individuals that yes, I'm still here and I'm still listening. They are significant in both telephone and face-to-face communication. People will consider you awkward or strange if you just sit there and think listening entails remaining silent. Even though you might be paying close attention or impatiently awaiting your turn to speak, listening requires active participation from you. People can tell you're listening if you use back-channel signals. People will assume you are not listening, not paying attention, or just plain odd if you don't respond to channel cues. Number 10. Lack of empathy. It's probable that you lack empathy if people think you're strange or awkward. Now, since it's too broad a subject for me to cover in the video, you should check out my whole playlist on empathy. But it's possible that you're not empathic. That suggests that you might not be able to accurately understand or recognize the feelings of other individuals. You might not be able to connect them to your own circumstances or comprehend other people's viewpoints, objectives, and worldviews. You could be unable to recognize others' emotions. You may not have enough altruism or compassion that when people are hurting, you reach out and do and say kind things in order to help relieve their suffering. All of these are elements of empathy, and if people perceive you as weird or awkward most of the time, you may not have mastered empathic listening and empathic skills. These have to do with feeling other people's feelings, identifying other people's feelings correctly, naming them, asking people to elaborate on them, and then saying comforting things to them.